morning.
Good morning.
Really heavy. Quick reminder, just for a few minutes after service today, if you could stick around, we will have a brief congregation. I really mean brief, too. I'm not just saying that. Also, if you are visiting today, thank you so much for coming. You are our honored guest, and I just hope that you feel that you are among the most important people here, because you certainly are. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. The movie Risen. Anyone see the movie Risen when it came out? All right, a few people. Long and short of it is, there was a Roman soldier by the name of Claudius, whose quest was to find the body of Jesus, who just so happened to be resurrected. It was a fictitious movie, we'll say. So along the way, Claudius interviews some of the disciples, some of the 12, one of which is a young man with long hair and really big eyes by the name of Bartholomew. So Hollywood kind of makes Bartholomew out to be a little goofy, but we know better. So one of the questions Claudius asks this young fellow, Bartholomew, is, why do you follow Jesus? Why do you follow him? A little bit later in the film, not to give anything away, but you've got Claudius now with the disciples following Jesus, and they come across a leper. And nobody touched lepers. That's just not what you did. So in this particular scene, he's getting mocked and physically beaten, is the leper, and then the people scatter away. And Jesus comes up to him and heals the leper. But before he does that, he touches him, he hugs him, and he kisses this poor leper right on the head. And the whole time the leper is saying, nobody touches me. Nobody touches me. It's a very revealing scene. It's a very powerful scene. And the next scene you see Bartholomew talking to Claudius, saying, you asked me why I follow him? That's why I follow him. As we talk about gentleness today, I want to accentuate the point. Let Jesus touch you. He has such a gentle touch. And I love the story that Jeremy gave about the two men on the cross that were surrounding Jesus. Because Jesus gave incredible grace to them. And that was a great example of gentleness. So, we are coming to the end of our fruit series. After today, next week, we will have the Rockford Christian Camp representative come. The week after that, we will finish with self-control. But today, gentleness takes center stage. What is gentleness? There are many different descriptions, definitions. I see it as humility, thankfulness for God or toward God, maybe polite and restrained behavior toward others. It's very similar to meekness. And by the way, meekness is not the same thing as weakness. Do we know that? If you're weak, you can't do something that you want to do. I would love to go to the gym and bench press like 500 pounds. It's not going to happen because physically, I'm not strong enough. I'm too weak. A meek person can do something, chooses not to. I'll illustrate. Everybody know who Chuck Norris is? If you went up to Chuck Norris on the street today and started messing around with him and challenging him to a fight, the only thing standing in the way between you and possibly your ultimate demise is Chuck being meek. He could pummel you into oblivion. He chooses not to. Hopefully. But only the strong are truly gentle. And that's what I'm going to try to get at today. The strong are truly gentle. And we cannot serve the Lord. We cannot serve others and the Lord without this spirit of gentleness. I see gentleness as a strong hand with a soft touch, like holding a baby's hand. If you've ever given birth, or if you've been fortunate enough to witness your wife giving birth, there's just something after the baby comes out, there's something about its little hand. And I personally will never, ever forget that. There's just something incredibly life-changing and gentle about that particular moment. People see animals as being gentle creatures. And of course, Jesus washing his disciples' feet. That's just an incredible act of gentle service right there. So we're Christians, most of us in here. Are we viewed this way? Does the world view us as gentle? Are we viewed as meek? Let me say, a lot of the people think that if you're a Christian, that you're judgmental, that you're homophobic, that you homeschool your kids, that you're a bigot, that you're a racist, that you're a hater, you're intolerant, that you're a moralist who thinks that you are the only person going to heaven, and you secretly relish the fact that everyone else is going to hell. Well, maybe you're thinking, well, that's the world. The world, they're skewed in their beliefs. Let me tell you something. I read a couple articles by a so-called Christian author, and I'm not going to read to you the whole articles, of course. The titles of these articles, number one, White Christians who voted for Donald Trump, fix this now. And the other one says, Conservative Christianity and White Supremacy's Scary Kinship. What? Look, I don't care who you voted for. It has nothing to do with that as much as, is that really what our own people think of us? What? Look, we're not monsters, we're not haters and bigots because we believe what the Bible says and we interpret it the correct way. Please, don't ever let anyone else's opinion of you become your reality. So I guess we have some work to do. What does the Bible say? Proverbs 15:1. And I use the King James today. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. So it's not in this text-based society in which we live. You don't hear people's voices that much anymore. We see a lot of words. Tone of voice can be lost, so be careful. Most of you who have talked to me probably figured out by now that I've got a pretty dry sense of humor, and it can be misconstrued sometimes, and I've got to work on that. So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And then in Titus, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, this is Paul, of course, put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work, to speak evil of no man, to be no brawler, but gentle, shewing all meekness unto all men. And by that, shewing all meekness, really what that means in the RSV, it says, to show perfect courtesy toward our fellow men. Point here is, there is a lot of grace contained in both of those verses. My question, are we following this advice? Are we putting the needs of others, putting their interests over our very own? Well, maybe, but maybe not, because we really do have to overcome the world. Now, you probably know me enough that I like to assail and kind of mock the self-help culture. I think they have it backwards. You hear people telling you all the time, well, you have to learn to love yourself before you can love others. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Honestly. You're all here this morning. You obviously love yourselves. You got yourselves dressed. You brushed your teeth. I hope. You ate your breakfast. You're here. You obviously feed yourself. You love yourself. It's not about that. Try doing it the other way. Try helping other people to make yourself feel better. I mentioned this morning in class, I actually did teach like 1,000 years ago. And I student taught second grade. And one thing we would do is there would be a circle and the student of the week would sit in the middle and all the other kids would give compliments like, Susie's a great artist and Susie's really good at math and I like her shirt today. You know what? I have absolutely no problem with that if you're 7 years old. Where it becomes a little shady is when you're 27 years old and you constantly need people to tell you how awesome you are. Folks, your confidence should not stem from how others treat you, but how you treat others. And if you don't believe me, try it. Try it this week. One of the greatest gifts that you'll ever receive in life, and sometimes it remains unopened, is the knowledge that you don't have to please everyone. So I brought this bag up here. This is heavy. Some of us bring this to church on Sundays, or to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or to social events. This represents the baggage, the emotional baggage that some of us have. If I may move some of this for a second. It is incredibly heavy, and it's so difficult to walk around with this. A little bit of anger there. Ooh, this anxiety. This is the heaviest one, right? Wow, I'm so angry and bitter and resentful. And then, man, what are other people going to think of me at work if I wear that suit? And then a funny thing happens. Yeah, it becomes empty. And it's a whole lot easier to walk around with an empty bag, to travel light, as the saying goes. Now, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, and maybe or maybe not, that's biblical. That's not the point. The fact is, if you're going to be gentle, if we're going to go with the definition that I provided, that we're respectful to one another, and we are humble and thankful to God, and polite and restrained in our language, you can't do that if you're caught up in your own stuff. You have to, at some point, let go and just give it all to God. Because gentleness, and this is not easy, by the way, no kidding. Gentleness ultimately comes with a sharp and intense focus, not on self, but on Jesus Christ. That is your true identity. So as we move forward, we're going to very, very, very briefly look at today's text. Numbers 12, verses 1 through 3. Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. For he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. And in parentheses, now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. I wonder what, oh, by the way, does everybody know who Miriam and Aaron are before we move on? Moses' brother. Can you imagine their family meals getting a little awkward? So, Moses, what'd you do today? Well, I led people across the sea, and I hung out with God. What'd you guys do? Right? I mean, how jealous were they of Moses? He had a very unique relationship. In fact, he was unique. God himself conferred it. And by the way, when it says spake against, that implies very hostile speech. Something that goes beyond the pale. Why were his siblings against this marriage? It is unclear. Probably because she was a foreign woman. The two questions they ask, they're not really seeking explanations, are there? They're almost rhetorical in nature. Don't you care about us? What's so special about him? Why can't you call on us? Why is it always Moses? You know, the Lord heard this, and later on in this chapter, he gets really angry. In fact, if you remember, Miriam's hand becomes leprous. So God became angry. It says in verse 9, the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. So God was angry. What about Moses? Moses kept his cool. No grudges, no axe to grind. Here was a man who led hundreds of thousands of people across the wilderness. And they thanked him by complaining, by whining, by saying things like, oh man, we should have just stayed in Egypt. We could have just died in peace. And Moses, what are you doing? We're going to build a golden calf and make you really look foolish. Yet, what does it say? Oh, and by the way, I should add, this was a Moses who wasn't even allowed into the promised land, which he was, well, promised. What does it say? He was very meek. He had all kinds of power. He was God's servant, his right-hand man. But he was very mild-mannered. And it is okay, I'm talking to myself too, it is okay to be mild-mannered. Sometimes. Let's let the following words be a guide. And I don't know if you can see that. It's John 16:18. Basically, when you are disrespected, when you are mocked, when you are ridiculed, when you are hated, Jesus says, remember, when people reject you, they first rejected me. Gentleness, meekness takes a lot of discipline. Let me quote author Max Lucado. He says it like this: I choose gentleness because nothing is won by force. I choose to be gentle. If I raise my voice, may it be only in praise. If I clench my fist, may it be only in prayer. And if I make a demand, may it be only of myself. We all have what I like to call a signature sin. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, we're all sinful, but there's one thing that I feel like we're always asking God to remove this one thing. Maybe it's lust, maybe it's an addiction to alcohol, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's anger. But it's the one that ceases to go away, seemingly. Now, I, at times, can get a little angry. I'd say that's probably the biggest, no major confessions here, but I can lose my temper. And I do ask for God to remove it. And what I think about, I don't know about you, if you ever experience anger, what are you trying to do? You're trying to assert your authority. You're trying to be strong, right? But that's not what gentleness is all about. And frankly, it's embarrassing. Unlike the other sins, you can't hide anger. You'll know if I'm angry. But if you're hiding some sort of pride issue or lust or any of the other ones I mentioned, you can hide that pretty well. Anger is tough, and it's embarrassing. And you're trying to make others submit to you, and that is not real strength. That's not leadership. We think of some of the tyrants in history. Adolf Hitler, well, he was a strong, powerful guy, right? Wrong. He was a coward who exterminated 6 million Jews. Or what about ISIS, these strong fighters in the Middle East? I don't think so. They, too, are cowards. Or an abusive parent. Perhaps you know someone. Maybe you yourself have experienced unfortunate abuse by an adult. That is not true power. Gentleness is an ability to put people at ease. That's true power. So what else does Jesus say? He says in Matthew 5:5, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." And a little bit later in 11:28 and 30, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. And ye shall find rest unto your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And this is the most powerful, the most sovereign, the most omnipotent, the strongest man in the world. And he said those words. How do you not respect someone with an attitude like that? Which leads me to ask you, to be honest, do you apply the concept of biblical meekness to your own lives? It's been a few weeks since I gave a sports analogy, so I am due. Tony Dungy, everybody heard of him? Hall of Fame coach. Awesome guy, very good Christian man. Gone through a lot of ups and downs in his life, but bottom line is, good Christian man, terrific coach, ended up in the Hall of Fame. When you think of a sports coach, what do you think of? People yelling and screaming and throwing chairs across the basketball court, and it's insanity. I mean, there's a reason that coaches have such short lifespans, right? But not Dungy. Tony Dungy led, but not in the usual way. He never yelled, ever. He didn't use profanity. He didn't use anger to motivate his team. In a book titled A Second Look at Sports by Dwight Allen, it says, Dungy sees himself, ready for this, as a shepherd who leads his team, but does not force them to do things his way. Not too long ago, there was a coach at a high school near where I grew up. It's called Neshaminy High School in Philadelphia. And I don't know if you remember this. There was a coach who got so angry, not at his team, but with the official. And there's actually film of this. So he goes out onto the court and headbutts the referee who goes to line. Is that gentleness? Now, I think to be fair, he did apologize afterwards. My bad, right? But, and it's funny, everybody in here wants a leader like